Assalamualaikum and hello. My name is Muhammad Faizul Nizam bin Muhammad Amin and my matrix number AA24057. So today I will present about chemicals and biological hazard overview. So for the chemical hazard overview, chemicals provide numerous benefits in modern life, but also present potential adverse health effect to people, damage to property, and harm to the environment. Chemical products used in the daily life include medicine, cosmetic, detergent, food additives, and paints. So for the biological hazard overview, biological hazard, known as biohazard, are biological substances that pose a threat to the human health of living organisms, primarily humans. Too much exposure can lead to both chronic health conditions such as hepatitis, AIDS, disease, and organ damage. So for the diagram that I put in my slide, the diagram shows how chemical from our environment into our bodies. It follows a simple change: emission, the source, leads to the media, the environment, which creates an integral and how it enters us. So for the source, on the left side, it starts with emission. Factories and cars release chemical substances into the air. These chemicals don't just stay in the sky, they settle into the soil and wash into our water bodies like rivers and oceans. For the right side, which is the three roads of entry, there are three main ways this chemical finally enter the human body. The first way is inhaling. We breathe in the contaminated air directly into our lungs. The second way is ingesting. This is the most complex route. We eat vegetables and rice grown in contaminated soil, and we eat fish or drink water from contaminated source. And the last ways, which is handling. This is skin contact. It happens when we touch contaminated soil or handle chemical substances directly during work or course. So for the conclusion for this slide, in short, what we release into the environment eventually comes back to us through the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the things we touch. This is why understanding these pathways is essential for our safety. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Sana binti Samsudin and my menstrual number is AA23015. I will explain the classification of chemical hazard based on usage and physical form. First, based on usage, chemical can be classified into solvent, metal, acid, bases, and pesticide. Solvents are used to dissolve substances such as paint thinner and cleaning fluid. Metal like lead and mercury are toxic and can harm the human body. Acids are strong corrosive substances, for example sulfuric acid, while bases or alkali can cause irritation and burn. Pesticides are used to control pests, but they can also be harmful to humans if there is exposure. Next, based on physical form, chemical can exist in different forms. Dust consists of solid particles suspended in the air, usually ranging from 0.4 to 10 micrometers. It is commonly generated from activity like grinding, pulverizing, and construction work, such as cutting and sanding. Dust can be divided into respirable dust, which can enter the lung, and inhalable dust, which enter through the nose and mouth. Fume refer to very fine metallic particles, usually less than 1 micrometer, formed when gases cool and condense, such as during welding. This fume can cause long-term damage to the lungs. Mist consists of tiny liquid droplets suspended in the air, commonly produced during spraying processes like painting spraying, and it is harmful when inhaled. Vapor is the gaseous form of substances near their boiling point. For example, cleaning solvent. It can cause short-term effects like dizziness and long-term effects such as brain damage. Gases are substances that exist above their boiling temperature, such as carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. They can enter the bloodstream, where some gases like oxygen are beneficial, but others like carbon monoxide are harmful. Lastly, liquids are substances in a liquid state. They can produce vapor or mist, which may also pose hazard. That's all from me, and thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Engku Noraina Nadira binti Engku Kamal and my number matric is AA23027. So today I'm gonna cover GHS safety symbols and safety data sheets STS. So, what is GHS stand for? GHS is Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals. So here we have 9 GHS safety symbols. So if any of these symbols are at your products, be careful. First is explosive. Explosive products that may explode by flame, heat, or friction. The second is flammable. These products ignite easily if a flame or heat source is present. The third is oxidizing. Products containing high levels of oxygen that promote the combustion of flammable or combustible substances. The fourth is compressed gas, where products stored under pressure. The fifth is corrosive. Corrosive and corrosive products can affect the skin and mucous membranes on contact and cause burn wounds. The sixth is toxic. Toxic products that cause a health hazard and can be fatal if inhaled or ingested through the skin or mouth. The seventh is harmful, irritant, sensitizing. Products that can cause irritation, itching, redness of the skin, or inflammation on direct, prolonged, or repeated contact. The eighth one is long-term health hazard. Products that can be harmful to organs and reproduction and are potentially carcinogenic. The last one is hazardous to the environment. Products that are harmful to plant and animal environments when released into the environment. So, safety data sheets STS. What is safety data sheets? Safety data sheets is a document that provides safety information about chemicals, and it also standardized under globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals. So, why safety data sheets STS is important? It is to protect health and safety, to prevent accidents, and also to guide emergency actions. The last one is how to use it. First of all, identify the chemical. Second, check the hazards. And lastly, follow the safety precautions.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurul Baqiyah binti Azhar and my matrix number is AA23029. I will present about the biological hazard. For the definition, biological hazard, also known as biohazards, are biological substances that pose a threat to human health. These include disease-causing agents or pathogens which can be transmitted to humans. They enter the body through various routes such as inhalation, ingestion, skin contact or injection. Exposure to biological hazard can lead to both acute and chronic health problems. Next, how do biological hazards work? There are 4 main ways that biological hazards can make their way into our bodies. First, inhalation. This is when we breathe in harmful biological agents. Pathogens like fungal spores, bacteria, or viruses can be suspended in the air, and when we breathe in, they enter the lungs. This can lead to respiratory issues such as asthma, pneumonia, or other infections depending on the pathogen. Second, ingestion. It refers to consuming contaminated food or water. This is a common way for harmful bacteria and viruses to enter our bodies. Diseases like food poisoning are often the result of ingesting contaminated substances. Third, skin contact. Pathogens can enter their body through breaks in the skin, like cuts, abrasions, or even through mucous membranes in our eyes or mouth. For example, touching contaminated surfaces or handling infected materials like soil or animal waste can lead to infections such as ringworm or bacterial skin infections. Lastly, injection. This occurs when biological agents are introduced directly into the bloodstream through needles, sharp objects, or other punctures. This route can be especially dangerous because it bypasses the body's natural defenses. Next, form of biological agents. The first one is fungi. Fungi are small organisms, some of which are single cell, and they can live on plants, soil, or decaying matter. They reproduce by forming spores, which can trigger allergic reactions when inhaled. Fungal infections can cause ringworm or athlete's foot. Second, molds. Molds are a specific group of small fungi that grow in damp environments such as on bread, cheese, and leather. They produce microscopic spores that float in the air. Molds can cause allergic reactions, leading to respiratory issues such as asthma or farmer's lung, especially when exposed over long periods. Third, bacteria. Bacteria are single-cell microscopic organisms that can be found in almost every environment, including soil, water, air, and even the human body. While many bacteria are harmless, some can cause serious diseases. This can be controlled with antibiotics and include diseases like tuberculosis, legionellosis, and tetanus. Fourth, viruses. Viruses are non-cellular organisms. It cannot replicate without invading host cells. Unlike bacteria, they cannot be controlled by antibiotics. Viruses can cause diseases like common cold, influenza, hepatitis, and HIV or AIDS, and are often more difficult to treat.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning. My name is Muhammad Khairi Luqman and my registration number is AA23026. Today I will explain about chain of infection. The first one is definition. The chain of infection is the process that show how to disease spread from one source to another. The first one is infection agent, which is the microorganisms that cause disease, for example, bacteria, virus, and fungus. Next is reservoir. Reservoir is the place where the pathogen live and grow. For example, humans, animal, water, soils, and workplace surface. And then the third one is the portal of exit. How the pathogen live, the severe, for example, coughing, sneezing, blood, and body fluid. And next is the mode of transportation. How the disease spreads. So the types is direct contact, as touching, airborne, like breathing a droplet, and indirect, contaminated tools and surface. And then the fifth point is portal of entry. How the pathogen enter a new body. For example, from nose, mouth, and cuts on skin. And then the last one is susceptible host. Susceptible host is a person who can get infection. As a high risk, the person is weak immune system, poor health, and no vaccination. Next is route of entry. Definition. Route of entry are the pathway through which hazardous substance, chemical or biological, enter the human body and cause harm. They have 4 points of route of entry. The first one is inhalation. Breathing in airborne contaminant such as dust, fume, vapor, or gases. This is the most common route in many industries. The second one is skin absorption. Chemical may pass through the skin after direct contact, especially liquids, solvents, acid, or pesticides. The third one is ingestion. Occur when hazardous substances are swallowed unintentionally, often due to poor hand hygiene or eating in work areas. And the last one is injection. Happen through cuts, puncture wounds, or needle stick injuries, especially in laboratories and healthcare setting.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Putri Alfa Agama binti Afifa alias Mama Nizam. My metric number is 2823024. Today, I will explain about occupational exposure and industry risk under chemical and biological health hazard. First, occupational exposure means when the worker are exposed to the harmful chemical or biological substance during their work activities. This exposure can happen every day in the workplace if hazards are not properly controlled. This is the type of occupational hazard. First, chemical hazard exists in various forms. Dust forms, vapors, gas, mist, and liquid. It can be cause skin and eyes irritation, breathing difficult, poisoning, and long-term health effects such as lung and nerve damage. Second, biological hazard. It includes bacteria, virus, fungus, and more found in the certain work environment. It can cause infection, allergic reaction, and respiratory disease, especially with repeat exposure. Next, industry risk. Industry risk refer to the likelihood or change of workers being harmed in the particular type of workplace due to the exposure to hazards, such as chemical, biological, physical, or chemical hazards. Different industries have a different risk level because the nature of work, material use, and working conditions are not the same. This is the example of industry risk. First, laboratory work. Exposure to virus and bacteria during handling of biological samples, mistake injuries from sharp instruments, health risks from accidental chemical or biological spill. Second, manufacturing and mining industry. Exposure to metal forms and dust during cutting, grinding, or welding. Skin problems caused by chemical contact, asthma and lung disease from long-term inhalation of airborne hazards. Last but not least, the construction industry. High level of dust and airborne pathogen during demolition and building work, more exposure from damp and damaged buildings, increased risk of respiratory disease such as tuberculosis or other infections.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Yusof bin Muzaffar. My matrix number is AA23171. Today I be talking about industrial hygiene and occupational health, which are both essential for maintaining safety and well-being in the workplace. Let's start with industrial hygiene. Industrial hygiene is the science of anticipating, recognizing, evaluating, and controlling workplace hazards. This hazard can be chemical, biological, or physical in nature. For example, workers may be exposed to harmful chemicals, noise, dust, or even bacteria. The main goal in industrial hygiene is to prevent illness, discomfort, and reduce ill efficiency by controlling these risks before they affect workers. Now moving on occupational health. Occupational health focuses on promoting the physical, mental, and social well-being of workers. It not only helps prevent diseases caused by working conditions, but also ensure that the environment is safe and suitable for everyone. Another important aspect is adapting the job to fit the workers, rather than forcing the worker to fit the job. This helps improve both safety and productivity. In summary, industrial hygiene deals with identifying and controlling hazard, while occupational health focuses on the overall well-being of workers. Together, they play a key role in creating a safe and healthy workplace. Now let's look at the industrial hygiene team and the different roles involved in maintaining workplace safety. First, we have the industrial hygienists. They are responsible for monitoring the work environment and conducting audits to ensure that workplace conditions meet safety standards. Next is the hygiene technician. They assist by carrying out exposure monitoring and evaluating how effective engineering controls are reducing hazard. We also have CHRA assessor or chemical health risk assessor. Their role is to conduct chemical risk assessment to identify and manage potential health risks from hazardous substances. The first responder play a critical role in emergency by providing first aid treatment when incident occur in the workplace. Then we have occupational health doctor and nurse. They handle medical surveillance, biological monitoring, and audiometric program to ensure workers' health is continuously monitored. Next, the indoor air quality. IAQ assessor focuses on evaluating indoor air quality to ensure a safe and healthy breathing environment. Next is the competent person for noise monitoring, who measure and monitor noise level to prevent hearing damage among workers. Finally, the analytical personnel are responsible for analyzing airborne chemical, microbes, and chemical metabolites, helping to detect hidden hazards in the workplace. In summary, each member of the industrial hygiene team has a specific role, but they all work together to ensure a safe, healthy, and hazard-free work environment.
Principle of good practice. Hazardous substance should be managed by designing and operating processes in a way that reduces their release and spread as much as possible. Control measures must be selected and applied based on the level of risk, using the most effective and reliable methods first. Thirdly, personal protective equipment should only be provided when other controls are not enough to fully manage the risk. It is also important to regularly inspect and review these control measures to ensure they remain effective. Workers must be informed and trained about the hazards involved and the correct safety procedures. At the same time, all control measures should be carefully planned so they do not introduce new risk. Preventative control measures. Prevention is the best way to control risk by removing hazards before they can cause harm. This can be done by changing how a process is done or by replacing dangerous material with safer ones. For example, using water-based paint instead of oil-based paints to reduce harmful exposure. Personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment (PPE) is used as a last resort to reduce risk when hazards cannot be removed. It does not eliminate the danger, and if it fails, the wearer can be exposed to high risk. Its effectiveness depends on proper training, using the right equipment, and good supervision. Thank you.